The prison was silent, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Outside the cell, a dim light flickered. Inside, the man lay awake on a thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. This wasn't just any night. It was his last. In less than 24 hours, he would be strapped down and executed by the state. The sounds around him were familiar. The distant hum of fluorescent lights, the faint clicking of a guard's boots down the hall, the echo of a cough from another inmate. But tonight, everything felt heavier, slower, colder. Every second passed like a hammer strike on steel. He sat up, rubbed his face, and looked at the wall where he'd scratched dozens of marks, one for each day he'd survived. There would be no mark for tomorrow. In the control room, a red file was pulled off the shelf. Inside, his picture, charges, and the schedule for his final hours. A corrections officer flipped the page. 6 a.m., wake, 6:30, final visit, 11 o'clock, final meal, 3:30, spiritual meeting, 6 o'clock, execution. Back in the cell, he wasn't crying, he wasn't begging, he was just there, still, as if his body was already turning into something lifeless. A prison guard approached, stopping outside the bars. "You need anything?" the officer asked quietly. The inmate looked up slowly. "Yeah. Can I get a pen?" The request was granted. He wrote for the next hour, silent, focused, and intense. No one knew what he was writing. A letter to his mother, to the victim's family, to God. Time crawled. He was offered breakfast but barely touched it. A piece of toast, some scrambled eggs, coffee, just sat there getting cold. He wasn't hungry. He didn't care. In a nearby room, staff began quietly preparing the execution chamber. They tested the gurney, calibrated the fourth lines, laid out the drugs in sequence, sedative, paralytic, then the one that stops the heart. Everything had to be flawless. There were no do-overs when you were killing someone legally. Back in the block, some inmates watched him from afar. They didn't speak, but their eyes said everything. Some pitied him, some hated him, some just didn't care anymore. They'd seen it too many times. The chaplain passed by briefly, nodding without speaking. He'd return later for the official rites. The inmate sat alone with his thoughts, with his memories, with the sound of death coming closer with every tick of the clock. Mid-morning, he was taken for a short walk, just to stretch his legs. He didn't speak, just walked the path in slow, heavy steps. His eyes scanned the yard, the sky, the razor wire. It would be the last time he saw sunlight. The moment everyone waited for came just before noon. A guard leaned in. "You've got 1 hour to decide your last meal. Write it down." The inmate nodded slowly. "I already know," he said. What he asked for shocked the guards, and would later stun the internet. But that part of the story hadn't come yet. For now, he returned to his cell. The door clanged shut. The lights flickered. He sat back down, watching the clock on the wall. It was almost time. The world kept spinning outside the walls, but inside, a man waited to die. Long before he ever stepped inside a prison cell, he was someone's son. A little boy with scraped knees and a crooked smile. He grew up in a small town, the kind where everybody knows your name and your secrets. Back then, no one could have imagined that he would one day become the center of a murder trial that shocked the entire country. His name was Marcus Allen Crowe. Born in 1983, by all appearances, just another American kid trying to make it through life. But something was always off. Teachers called him quiet, withdrawn, and later, angry. His mother struggled with addiction. His father, when he was around, was violent. The home he grew up in wasn't safe. It wasn't nurturing. It was survival. Marcus was in and out of juvenile detention before he turned 16. By 20, he'd racked up a list of petty crimes: burglary, assault, resisting arrest. But what happened on the night of July 17th, 2008 changed everything. The crime scene was a nightmare. Blood on the walls, broken furniture, a single mother and her 9-year-old son, both found murdered inside their home. Police say it was a home invasion gone wrong, but the brutality suggested something more, something personal. Marcus was caught within 48 hours. His fingerprints were found on the back door. The stolen jewelry was discovered under the seat of his car. He denied everything at first, said he was framed, but eventually he cracked. Confessed during a 3-hour interrogation. Some say he was coerced. Others say he just wanted it over with. The trial drew national media attention. Cameras outside the courthouse, protesters on both sides. Inside, the courtroom was cold and cruel. The mother of the victim cried every single day. Her only remaining family, a brother, sat silently, clutching a photo of the boy. When Marcus took the stand, he showed no emotion, no tears, no remorse, just facts. "I broke in to rob the place. I didn't mean to kill anyone, but they saw my face. I panicked." That line stuck with everyone. I panicked, as if panic justified what he did. The jury didn't take long, guilty on all counts. 2 life sentences would have been enough, but the state pushed for death, and they got it. In his final appeal, his lawyers tried to argue mental illness, PTSD, childhood trauma. But the court wasn't interested. The law saw a killer, and that's all it needed to see. Over the next 17 years, Marcus lived in a 6x9 cell. Every day the same, cold concrete, harsh light, and isolation. But something happened in those years. He started writing letters, poems, even a book. He stopped cursing the world and started questioning himself. In a rare interview 5 years before his execution, he said, "I wake up every day knowing 2 people are gone because of me. Nothing I do will ever fix that. But if I can use the time I have left to say something meaningful, maybe that's worth something." The internet had mixed feelings. Some saw redemption, others saw manipulation. After all, could a man who stabbed a child ever truly change? And yet, in the final days, the hate around him seemed to quiet down. The press stopped writing about him. The crowds stopped showing up. The world moved on. But he didn't. Every night, Marcus stared at the same photo taped above his bed. His mother. The one person who, despite everything, wrote to him until the day she died. And now, after nearly 2 decades of legal delays, his final chapter was being written. Tomorrow, at 6 p.m., he would be executed by lethal injection. The world may have forgotten his name, but his story wasn't over just yet. What he did next, the choice he made for his final meal, would start a conversation no one expected. The morning of his execution began like every other, dark, cold, and silent. But this time, the silence felt sharper. The guards didn't say much. They didn't need to. Everyone knew what day it was. At 5 a.m., the warden signed the final paperwork. It was official. Marcus Allen Crowe would be executed at exactly 6 p.m. Inside the control room, a red light blinked. Surveillance cameras zoomed in. Every second from this point forward would be documented. In a small, sterile chamber on the other side of the building, the gurney was cleaned and adjusted. The execution drugs were locked in a sealed case, 3 small vials that would stop a human heart in under 10 minutes. They had to be prepared with precision. This wasn't revenge, this was procedure. The team on duty had done this before, but it never got easier. One officer, assigned to strap the inmate down later that day, whispered to another, "It's weird how quiet they get, like they've already left their body." Around 9 a.m., Marcus was allowed one final shower. He took his time. When he returned, he was handed fresh prison clothes, not his usual jumpsuit, but a clean set meant for his final appearance. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the neatly folded shirt and pants, like they were a costume for his own funeral. By noon, the spiritual advisor had arrived, a soft-spoken man in a gray suit, carrying nothing but a small Bible and a folded piece of paper. The guards let him in. Marcus didn't say a word at first. Then quietly, almost too softly to hear, he asked, "Will it hurt?" The chaplain didn't lie. "You'll feel the first drug. After that, it's just sleep." Marcus nodded. Good. They talked for a while, not about sin or forgiveness, not about heaven, just about silence, about fear, about what it feels like to die while still breathing. Back in the kitchen, the prison cook was handed a special request. Marcus had submitted his final meal the night before, and it wasn't typical. It wasn't steak or fried chicken or pecan pie like so many before him. It was something else entirely, something strange enough that the staff double-checked the form. But the order was confirmed. The ingredients were gathered. It was being prepared. By mid-afternoon, Marcus had only hours left. He was given time to call a family member, but no one picked up. He left a message. No one knows what he said. As the sun began to lower outside the barbed wire fence, the shadows grew longer inside death row. A quiet tension filled every hallway. One guard stood outside his cell, arms crossed, listening to the ticking of the wall clock. 4:45 p.m. Marcus was handed his final meal on a plastic tray. He sat on his bed and looked at it in silence. The smell filled the tiny space, sweet, familiar, comforting. He smiled, not out of joy, but out of memory. He took a slow, deliberate bite. For 10 full minutes, he didn't speak. Just ate quietly, as if it were any other dinner. The guards didn't interrupt. It was his last rite. When he finished, he wiped his mouth with a napkin, set the tray aside, and said, "I'm ready." Outside the chamber, media vans began lining up. Reporters waited for the official announcement. The family of the victims had already been seated in the observation room. Behind a pane of glass, they would watch the man who destroyed their lives take his final breath. The warden gave the signal. The death team moved as one, each person trained for this exact moment. 2 guards entered the cell. Marcus stood up without being told. He didn't cry, didn't fight, just walked. Down the hallway, known as the last mile, his footsteps echoed. The sound bounced off the steel walls, off the years of history soaked into that floor. Dozens had walked it before. Marcus was just the next name in a long, deadly tradition. When he reached the chamber, he paused, just for a second. He turned his head, looked at the fluorescent lights above him, and sighed. The straps were tightened across his chest, his arms, his legs. A microphone was lowered toward his mouth. It was time to speak his last words. The tray was simple, just plastic and scratched from years of use, but what sat on it told a story that no words ever could. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't even what anyone expected. Marcus Allen Crowe's final meal consisted of just 3 things: a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a glass of chocolate milk, and a slice of birthday cake. The guards stared at the order slip in confusion when it came in. Most inmates asked for full-course meals: T-bone steaks, fried chicken, cheeseburgers piled high, or seafood platters that pushed the limits of the prison's budget. Some made ridiculous requests, hoping to delay the inevitable. Others ate nothing at all. But Marcus had chosen something innocent, childlike, the kind of lunch a mother might pack for her 10-year-old on the first day of school. The sandwich was made with grape jelly, his only request. The bread, soft and fresh. He ate it slowly, with a strange sense of peace, as if every bite was a memory, not of murder, not of prison, but of a moment long gone, maybe from a time before his life spiraled into darkness. The chocolate milk came in a glass bottle, cold, thick, sweet. He sipped it while staring at the wall, his eyes distant, somewhere far away. Then came the cake, vanilla with white icing, rainbow sprinkles. A single pink candle was tucked beside it, not allowed to be lit, but there all the same. No one asked him why he requested that, but one guard with tears in his eyes whispered to another, maybe he's celebrating the birthday he never had. There was no music, no laughter, no candles blown out. But for those few minutes, Marcus wasn't a killer. He wasn't a headline. He wasn't a monster. He was just a man eating cake, remembering a time when life was simpler, when the world was kind. Later, one of the kitchen staff revealed that Marcus had sent a note with his meal request. It read, "Don't waste money on me. I don't deserve a feast. Just give me what I used to eat when I thought I'd grow up to be something better." That line would go viral the next day. People all across the internet began debating its meaning. Some saw it as a rare moment of remorse. Others called it manipulation, one last act to get sympathy from the world. But no one could deny the haunting imagery. A death row inmate, sentenced for the brutal murder of a mother and child, asking for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and birthday cake. Some speculated deeper. Was the meal symbolic? A way to take himself back to his childhood? To a time before the violence? Before the crime? Before he became a name written in red on prison ledgers? Others thought it was a form of psychological punishment, forcing himself to eat something tied to innocence while he waited for death, as if to remind himself of everything he lost, everything he destroyed. No one knew for sure, but the image stuck with people. News anchors described it as strange, tragic, poetic. Psychologists were brought on air to analyze it. Social media erupted with opinions. Some people wept, others raged. Everyone felt something, and perhaps that was his intention. Maybe Marcus wanted his final act to make people uncomfortable. Maybe he wanted them to see the brokenness that leads someone to become a killer. Or maybe he just wanted one last moment of comfort. When the tray was picked up, he looked the guard in the eyes and said softly, "Thank you. That's the best thing I've tasted in years." The guard didn't respond. He couldn't. His throat was tight, his eyes wet. In less than an hour, Marcus would be dead. But in that moment he was fully alive, haunted, yes. Doomed, yes. But alive, and with nothing left to prove. The time was 5:45 p.m. A soft knock echoed against the steel door. 2 guards entered the cell. Neither of them spoke at first. They didn't need to. The silence said everything. One of them looked at Marcus and nodded gently. "It's time." Marcus stood slowly. No handcuffs, no resistance. He didn't ask for more time. He didn't cry. He didn't even breathe heavily. His face was calm, resigned. His eyes, however, betrayed something deeper. Not fear, not anger, just an unbearable heaviness. The hallway outside was narrow and cold, lined with harsh white lights. This stretch of concrete, only 20 feet long, had been walked by dozens before him. It was known by many names across prisons: the Last Mile, Dead Man's Walk, the Final Path. Each step sounded louder than the one before. Guards flanked him on both sides. A chaplain followed close behind, quietly praying under his breath. At the end of the hallway stood a metal door. Beyond it, the execution chamber. Inside, the room was bright, unnaturally bright. At the center, the gurney waited. It looked more like a hospital bed than an instrument of death. Clean sheets, sterile straps. Beside it, 3 tubes curled like snakes, ready to deliver the drugs that would end a man's life in under 10 minutes. Marcus lay down without help. The team worked quickly, efficiently. They strapped his wrists, his ankles, his chest. One officer adjusted the position of his right arm, exposing the vein. A medic leaned in and inserted the IV. No pain, no words, just the quiet, professional sound of practiced death. On the other side of the glass, witnesses sat in silence. Family of the victims, reporters, legal officials. each face locked in a tense expression, some watching Marcus, some looking away. The victim's brother gripped the armrest so tightly his knuckles turned white. At exactly 5:58 p.m., the warden stepped forward and asked the same question asked to every condemned man before him. "Do you have any final words?" Marcus blinked, his lips parted. He didn't rant, he didn't preach, he didn't beg. His voice was quiet but clear. "I took 2 lives that I can never give back. I've thought about them every single day for 17 years. If there's anything left in me that can mean something, it's this. If you're angry, I understand. If you hate me, I don't blame you. But please, don't let my evil define your life the way it destroyed mine." He turned his head toward the victim's family and added, "I am so sorry." Then he closed his eyes. At exactly 6 p.m., the warden gave a small nod. A switch was flipped. The first drug entered his system, a powerful sedative designed to numb his senses and slow his heartbeat. Marcus's breathing began to deepen. His face remained calm. The second drug followed, paralytic. His chest stopped rising. Finally, the third injection, potassium chloride. It stopped the heart. The monitor flatlined. 6:07 p.m., officially pronounced dead. The warden turned to the observation room. "The sentence has been carried out." Some witnesses quietly exited. The victim's brother stayed seated for another minute, unmoving. His lips quivered. Then he stood, walked away, and never looked back. Outside, reporters delivered the headline, "Marcus Allen Crowe executed at 6:07 p.m. after requesting PB&J and birthday cake." But the internet wasn't focused on the crime, or even the execution. It was the meal, the message, the strange human moment in the middle of state-sanctioned death. People debated it for days. Was he seeking redemption? Was it all a performance? Did the system finally bring justice, or just repeat the cycle? No one had a clear answer. All that remained was a photo, smuggled out by someone on the inside. A blurry shot of the final meal tray, a sandwich, a glass of chocolate milk, and a single untouched slice of birthday cake.